Hey, girl, hey.
Hey.
Hey, girl, hey. And we're back.
We made it.
Yeah, we're here. It's Kelly Manno Show. Haas is not here today, but Stephanie is. Everybody say hello to Stephanie.
Hey.
So we were just discussing the weather
Oh my God.
and how terrible it is.
It's awful.
Why do we live
January.
here? Why?
Well, 'cause it's cheap.
I guess so. That's true. It is really, really cheap. So we're in the Midwest and the weather's been like literally 2 degrees for like a week. And now it's finally a little bit warm, but it's raining and it's like the never ending rain where everything is so soggy and gross.
Someday we're going to come to the studio and it's going to be sunny out, but not today, folks. Not today.
I know. So if you're new here, if you're joining us today because of our topic, I'm Kelly Manno. I do content creation on social media. I also have, I don't know what to call this, a podcast. It was a podcast. And that now I guess it's like a YouTube show.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's us and we're here once a week. And normally we are just talking about stupid shit. We are the show about nothing and everything. So we're talking about what's going on in our lives, what's going on in the news, what's going on with celebrities, anything fun, basically.
Yeah. It's like morning radio, but just not in the morning.
Morning radio, but not in the morning. And we just pretty much cover fun, easy to talk about topics, except for today, which, I mean, this is still also easy to talk about. But once in a while, a show will come around on Netflix or something and just take the entire world by storm. Just has like a grip on everyone. Like this happened with Tiger King back during COVID. And I saw this pop up on my Netflix the other day. It's called American Nightmare and it's on Netflix. And the minute I saw the thumbnail, I was like, oh, I completely know this story.
I love these.
Yeah, this is Aaron and Denise. This is I'm not a true crime junkie and I'm not a real big fan of. I mean,
let's unpack that for a second.
Okay, so I went to Crime Con.
Okay.
I've got hoodies that say basically a detective and stuff like that. I don't.
We're gonna say not a true crime junkie.
No, okay, so maybe a little bit. But I really like this case because it is right up my wheelhouse of, and this entire show is going to be a spoiler alert. But in this documentary, nobody gets murdered. There's nothing horrible and gory, and it's a very much. I mean, the Netflix documentary did an amazing job. Did it have you like not knowing the story? Were you like?
I did not know the story when I watched it. Right.
So every episode where I couldn't believe the editing when they ended the first episode with Denise sitting there. I was like,
yeah. I mean, seriously, I was like, what? Yeah. That was. I thought it was really good, and I love the way that Netflix does these when they're limited series or just a few episodes.
Yes.
Like they're not making you sit through 10 episodes of this. When it's just these drawn out.
Yes.
3 episodes. I can watch it in like a lazy afternoon. Weekend something. I love it. It was perfect.
Literally the perfect amount of time.
Yes,
so we're going to go over it today. If you've not seen the show, I mean, we're not going to explain it to you in detail. We are going to go over it. But if you're confused because you haven't watched it yet, just go watch the show on Netflix and come back and rewatch this. So we're going to be talking a lot today about shitty police work. And I just want to be clear that this is not like, I'm not a big cop basher or anything like that. This is not a political thing. And this is not a cop bashing story. This is a Vallejo Police Department bashing show because they did a really shitty job. And so while we're going to talk about the mistakes that law enforcement made that led to all these horrible things to happen, it was also law enforcement that came in and saved the day. So, good cops, bad cops, it's everywhere. So anyway, I just didn't want to come off for anyone new. This story basically features our main players are Aaron and Denise. They are a couple and they live in California. This just happened. It was March 2015. You're also going to be hearing about Matt Mueller, and we're just going to call him the bad guy. And then we're also going to talk about Officer Mustard, who is a bad cop.
Not a colonel.
No. And a girl named Andrea, who is Aaron's ex-girlfriend. And so ex-fiance. So basically we're going to go back to 2014 and Aaron was engaged to a girl named Andrea. They had dated for years and years. They had lived together. They were going to get married. And in the end of 2014, they had a terrible breakup. It was nasty. It was toxic. You can tell by the way his family's kind of interviewed about it that they're like, oh, it was not a good breakup. She had cheated on him several times over the course of their relationship that he found out about. And around the same time, and I don't know if they cover this in the story or not, because I have so much information in my head about this case that let me know if something's new or I'm just repeating stuff everyone knows. But around the time that, Aaron and Andrea broke off their engagement. Now, she had still lived there for a little while because they had a lease together, I don't know, something like that. Okay. He started thinking he was crazy because he started thinking that he saw drones in his backyard, like up above his yard. he started thinking that somebody had been in his house. He would come home and he's like, because this was right when Andrea moved out, he's like, he said things in his house had just been moved a little bit. Like you would come in and you just felt like somebody had been in your house.
Huh.
And he thought he was crazy because, he also, thought he was crazy when he thought his girlfriend was cheating on him or his fiance, and she was.
Right.
And that is such a critical part to this story. And if Netflix didn't cover it, I wanted to bring it up, that there was a time when, because Aaron and Denise have released a book called Victim F. I've read it. It's been a long time since I've read it, but I know they talked about it in the book that he thought he heard drones and he thought people were in his house, and he just wrote it off as, maybe I'm crazy. Yeah. So him and Andrea break up in late 2014, and he starts dating a girl named Denise. Now, fun fact, they all work together.
Oh, God.
All three of them. They're physical therapists?
Yeah, it's some kind of physical therapy office. I don't know if they're all physical therapists, but I think it's that kind of office.
Sure. And kind of from the start, Aaron admits that he moved on way too fast from Andrea. They were supposed to get married. She hurt him a lot. He had a lot of this betrayal trauma, but also really liked Denise and started kind of moving things on with her. Mm-hmm. So they start dating, and just a couple of months go by, and Denise finds out that he has been communicating with his ex, Andrea. She found text messages in his phone that he had texted Andrea saying, I want to try this again. I want to work this out, which, he's not in his right mind with obviously everything that happened. Yeah. But she broke up with him, and she's like, I'm not doing this. You're not ready for a relationship. So she leaves, and they had not seen each other for like a month, which is also not kind of in this documentary, is that they were not together like every day. They hadn't seen each other in a month. So they decided to get together and talk about everything. And originally they were going to go to dinner. Aaron and Denise were.
Okay.
And then they decided that since it was going to be such an emotional conversation, they probably shouldn't have it in public. They wanted to have it in private.
That seems fair.
So Denise came and met at Aaron's house that night. They had these long, deep talks about how they were going to try to make it work again, and how Aaron was sure that he was over Andrea and he was ready to move on. And they have this great meeting, this great night where they reconnect and all these great things happen. And then they go to bed.
Yeah.
So
in the same house.
In the same house that he and Andrea had lived in.
Yep.
And she lived about, I think, 30 minutes away from him. It wasn't super close. I know she had brought bags with her, which is going to be a big question here down the road. Some
overnight bags. So she had planned on staying.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they had these wonderful talks. They had some wine. I think there was like some empty glasses on the counter. Yep. They go to bed. They are woken up at 2 a.m, was it? Maybe
middle of the night.
Middle of the night, they're woken up to a voice saying, "This is a robbery."
Yep.
And listen to my instructions. And they also woke up to bright lights in their face.
Yep.
And what they said were like red laser beam lights, as if it were a gun being trained on them. Like they could see laser lights on themselves. They could see bright lights. They were very, very confused, obviously. And the bad guy called Aaron by name and said, "Aaron, you need to lay face down." So Aaron lays face down, and he gives Denise these zip ties and says, "Zip tie him up." I know from their book that she really did try to zip tie him as loosely as possible, which is how he got out in the first place. People were like, "Why would you zip tie your own, boyfriend?" Oh, yeah. When you think there's 3 people in the room pointing guns at you, everyone is going to react different.
Right, exactly.
So
plus it's the middle of the night. You're woken up out of a dead sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of disorientation happening here.
Yeah, so they are doing as they're told. They are cooperating with this voice in the dark, because obviously it's dark, and if you're holding a bright light, like he can see them, but they can't see the bad guy.
Right.
So then he zip ties Denise, her hands and feet, and he says, "I'm going to take you into the router room," which this was like a 3-bedroom house, and only one bedroom had an internet router in it. And so Aaron thought instantly, "Oh my God, this guy's been in my house." Like if he's referring to something as the router room, then he's been in here.
Yeah, he knows.
So Aaron instantly sort of realizes that this is a really well orchestrated whatever it is.
Yeah.
He knows his name. He knows where the router is in the house, and he separates him and Denise. Almost immediately, he comes in and puts headphones on their ears. And in separate rooms, they're in headphones, and they're listening to what they described as like really calming wind chime music.
Yeah.
Like really creepily calm wind chime.
Almost like spa music.
Yes. Spa music.
Spa music.
And they started hearing these pre-recorded messages through their headphones, which is psychotic. Like that, it sounds like something that would happen in a movie. And it's a pre-recorded message. And it's the guy who's kidnapping saying, we are not here to hurt you. We are only here for financial reasons. And if you cooperate, no one is going to get hurt.
Right.
The voice in the headphones says, we are now going to drug you guys with NyQuil and diazepam, which is like a Valium, I think.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And if you don't take it, then it'll be given to you intravenously. If I said that word right, something like that. Yeah. They're going to stick you with a needle.
Close enough.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, so now we're going to take these drugs. And if they don't, we're going to force it. And the pre-recorded message at this point starts going a little, like Aaron notices it's going off script, like things that should be happening are not. It's basically like these kidnappers planned this out to the minute. So things were happening ahead of time in his headphones that had not happened yet. He gets the medicine.
Yep.
And he takes the medicine. And a few minutes later, he's listening to the recording again, and he hears the voice say, you know, I've separated you and Andrea. Nobody's going to get hurt as long as you comply with the money I want, the ransom that I want. I assume that they had a decent amount of money, both being doctors. Then Andrea won't get hurt. And Aaron's like, wait a minute, Andrea.
Yep. Wait,
that's my ex-fiance. Like, she hasn't lived here in like 4 or 5 months. What is he talking about?
Part of the recon info was bad.
Yeah. So at the same time, you know, the bad guy's in there with Denise, who they happen to look a lot alike, as in they're the same age. They both have similar builds and they both have long blonde hair.
Yep.
So bad guy comes back in the room to Aaron and says, hey, do Denise and Andrea look alike? And he's like, yeah, why? And he's like, yeah, this is not meant for Denise. This was meant for Andrea, not her.
Yep.
And when they went back, yeah, and when the bad guy went back in the room with Denise and told her, hey, this was not meant for you. This was meant for Andrea. Her first words were like, what the fuck does she have to do with, like, literally, I've been trying to get this woman out of my relationship for all this time. Like, just tonight, we decide we're going to make this work.
Yep.
2 hours later, I'm hogtied and being told that I'm being kidnapped, and it was supposed to be for this girl.
Yep.
I mean, she was this poor woman.
Yeah.
You know, and as we unfold the story, looking back, the timing of them having that conversation that night and then what happened is just unreal. Like, really, really, really shitty luck, basically.
Of course. And it makes you wonder, like, what would have happened if, like, you know, things had gone the other way with their conversation, you know, and she had left that night.
Yeah.
You know, what if that guy had shown up and been like, oh,
where's the blonde?
Never mind. I'll be back.
See ya.
Gotta go.
So he tells Denise, he's like, well, I'm going to go forward with this plan anyway, because I still want Aaron's money. So whether you're Andrea or Denise, I'm still going to kidnap you.
Right.
I'm going to put you in the trunk of a car, and we're going to drive, and you know, I'll wake you up whenever we get there.
I mean, here he goes, giving all the information. At least he's like
all of the information.
Like,
all of the
tell him what's going on. Here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Play by play.
Yes, because this is a very, very unique case in that in 90% of cases, criminals are dumb.
Oh, yeah.
They're very, very stupid people.
Right.
They don't plan well. But it's rare that you deal with a criminal who is a Harvard graduate, a former Marine.
Yep.
He's a lawyer. I mean, and so that's why
he was a lawyer. I think he was.
He had been a lawyer, disbarred for something. Mm-hmm. But when you hear this story and how unrealistic it is of like the recordings he make and all this stuff he sets up, you're like, you know what? It just sounds like a really smart person planned like a criminal act instead of a stupid person. It's not that unrealistic. It's just not your typical criminal.
Exactly.
So he puts her in Aaron's car. Aaron's car is in the driveway. Puts her in the trunk. And this is where we're going to start to also see some of his moral compass come out, which is also very, very bizarre. And I'm not defending him. I'm just stating the facts that this criminal has this bizarre moral compass where he's putting her in the trunk and he's like, here, I brought you a blanket from the bed. He brought the comforter. And she said, this was in the book too. She's like, is there any way you can get me the blanket off the couch? I really like that one better. And he's like, sure. So he goes in and gets her the blanket off the couch, comes back, opens the trunk, gives her the right blanket.
Yep.
I should mention that she is wearing swim goggles that are blacked out.
With like duct tape.
Yeah. And they're like suction cupped to her eyeballs. And if you've ever had goggles like suction to your face, you know those suckers aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, can't see anything.
So she can't see. She's been drugged. And he puts her in the trunk and starts driving. And they don't make it very far. And he opens the trunk and she thought, well, this is it. This is where I get killed.
Yep.
What's going to happen now? He puts her in another trunk. Gives her more drugs.
Yep, car transfer.
Gives her more drugs. And he's just informing her the whole time, like exactly what he's going to do. He's like, now we're going to drive this other place and I'll wake you up when we get there.
And meanwhile, she's like trying, like through the drugs. She said this, I think, in the show, that she's trying to like pay attention to like
how many turns
and how far they're driving before they're turning, but like, man, that has got to be so hard to do.
Yeah.
While you're groggy and drugged up, like that's got to be so hard to be like, okay, we're, how long has it been? Has it been 5 minutes? Has it been 7 minutes, 10 minutes? And then are we turning left, or is it like, are we just like angling? I mean, that's got to be, and trying to focus on something like that. I mean, that's got to be so tough.
One thing she said that really freaked me out was that she could hear, it was morning time now. So, cars were getting on the road that were going to work, and she could hear just the hustle and bustle of traffic. And she's like, I hear all of these people going about their lives and nobody knows I am kidnapped in this trunk, like right next to all of these cars. Yeah. And she said, I've seen the videos of people who kick out, taillights and get help and all of this stuff. But they had been told several times that if they did not comply, that the other one was going to be, hurt. They were going to cut him in the face, different things. And again, we're all different people, right? So when we face trauma, it's like fight, flight, freeze, or fauna. Those are like kind of like the four. Fight and flight, I think, are obvious. Freeze is obvious. And fauna is when you kind of go into like a baby deer state, like just like almost submissive, right? So she's been in this trunk for God knows how long. They get out and she is escorted into a house. And she said that at this time, it doesn't sound like there's anything around. She can smell pine trees. She hears birds, but there's no traffic. And she knows she's in the middle of nowhere because she's like, where could I possibly be that this man pulls me from a trunk and is guiding me blindfolded into a house and nobody can see this?
Right. So presumably some kind of wooded area.
Correct. So around this time is when Aaron wakes up because, again, he's back at the apartment. He's drugged and he's got on a blindfold. He's got, he's told that when he wakes up, there's going to be a camera on him and that these kidnappers are going to be watching him. And if he's ever not on camera, then they're going to hurt Denise. Mm-hmm. So he wakes up at 7 a.m. and he's with it enough to call both of their works and call them off work because that was part of the bad guy's instruction. And he said it was like 7 a.m. and he thought, okay.
About their jobs.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So he's like, now I'm going to do, I think that the bad guy did not want their jobs looking for them.
Yeah, of course.
He didn't want to sound any alarm. So that's why he told him to do that. And he falls right back asleep. And he wakes up just a couple hours later. I want to say it was like around 11 o'clock. And the kidnapper, the bad guy says, I'm going to be communicating with you through your phone. So you're going to need to check your emails and your text messages. And then he gives Aaron a portable charger so that his phone doesn't die.
Nice.
He's like, I don't want you getting out of this chair. Here's a portable charger. I'm going to give you instructions on how to get this money to me via your phone.
They show like in the Netflix, like they had a rug with like a red tape
yes, they like taped a box where if he went outside that box, they were going to hurt Denise. Mm-hmm. So Aaron wakes up again around 11 and he starts going through the motions of what the kidnapper has asked for. So first of all, he opens his email and the ransom letter to him saying, I need you to go to the bank and take out $8,500 was sent to his email from his own other email. His email was emailing himself saying, go to the bank, take out $8,500. You're going to put it here. And he's like, he's like, they have my email passwords too? Like, my God. So at this point, they really realize that they're dealing with a very, very smart criminal.
Very sophisticated criminal.
And so they're trying to, do what has been asked of them.
Yeah.
Now, this is the point where they mentioned that Aaron's brother is an FBI agent. Aaron's
dun, dun, dun.
Of all times for you to have a relative come in clutch. I mean, that is when you want to have it, because as he's going through all of these motions of answering his email, checking his text, and he said that he started to like get himself ready to go to the bank and take out this money. Yeah. And he thought, I need to call Ethan. Like I need to call my brother and tell him what's going on. So he calls his brother, who's in the FBI and lives, I think, a little over an hour away. And Ethan says, call 911 right now. Like, hang up and call 911. That's what needs to happen here.
Yeah.
So he does that. He hangs up. He calls 911. Ethan, the FBI brother, is like, I'm on my way to your house. And the cops show up and they bring him outside, Aaron. And this is where the documentary actually starts, which I thought was a fascinating place to start it, is him sitting outside, just drugged out of his mind, pretty much.
Yep.
Like sitting in the sunshine, like shielding his eyes. And they're saying, now explain this again. A bad guy broke in your house, just a stranger kidnapping, which is very rare in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me that they want money and that the emails you're getting are from yourself.
I know. It all sounds very like, what?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously it's not looking good for him. And
it is not. Yeah.
And anyone, including us, would say, oh, okay.
Yeah, the boyfriend did it.
Right. The boyfriend did it. However, that's not how cops are supposed to behave. That's not their job. They take an oath and they have to follow something called, what is it? Criminal bias. I think that's
confirmation
bias. So confirmation bias is something where you already think you know the answer and then you're just looking for confirmation that your story is correct. And that is literally the exact opposite of what cops swear to do.
Right.
And so he's in the interrogation room. You know, they bring him in. First of all, you know, his girlfriend's been kidnapped. He's still half drugged on NyQuil and diazepam. I mean, shit, I've taken NyQuil and it's stayed with me for like a day.
Wow.
You know, like it just, if you don't take that stuff very often, like I could see why he would still be a little groggy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they get
especially
him
depending on the dosing. If they were just guessing on some dosing, like, yeah, we'll throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
And mixing it with volume and, you know.
Yep.
Woo. Yeah. So some people were like, I don't get it. Why was he so calm? I'm like, dude, he probably felt like he had an elephant like sitting on his brain trying to like figure this out. So he gets to the police station and I don't give a crap what anybody says. He is instantly treated like a suspect.
Oh, yeah.
They strip him naked. They take naked photos of him. They put him in jail clothes.
Yeah, they put him in jail clothes.
And then they're like, just so you know, we're only putting you in these because we don't have anything else.
This is all we've got. So it's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Lying motherfuckers. So they start asking him questions and he's answering them as best as he can. And again, he's struggling. Around this time, the brother shows up to the police station. They won't let him see Aaron. And also the parents get there and they won't let the parents see him. And you know, at this point, he should not be being treated as a suspect because you have to kind of earn that right. You have to do some investigative work to have probable cause that this person committed this crime. And just an interview is not enough. And so the parents are like, we want to come see him. And the brother's like, we want to come see him. And the police department's like, no, you can't. Meanwhile, this guy is like in the corner, huddled up on chairs, like shaking, crying.
He didn't know what to do with himself.
They had him there for 18 hours.
Can you believe?
So this is the part where I really want to educate the public that you never have to stay and be interrogated. And I mean, my advice for my kids and for myself, you know, I've known for forever that if you wake up and you're in the middle of a criminal investigation and you don't know what is going on, but you know that you're innocent, shut your mouth and get a lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of advice they give is that you can give a statement to give police a head start on what's going on. Like you can give like a written statement, like I woke up at this time. This is what happened. You know, this is where I think that, you know, just you write it in a statement and then you let them start their investigation, but you don't let them ask you any questions.
Right.
Because, the police are allowed to lie to you in interrogations. It might be a state-by-state thing, but in most of them, they are allowed to lie to you because it is a tactic that they use to mess with your brain. And they ask Aaron if he wants to take a lie detector test. And he's like, sure, I'm innocent. I'll do whatever. Again, don't do this ever. Never take a lie detector test. Never, ever, ever. At least not without your lawyer present. And certainly don't take a lie detector test on freaking NyQuil and volume.
And he doesn't even ask for a lawyer until after the lie detector.
Yeah.
Correct?
Oh my God. He was the most naive person on the planet. Everything he did was wrong.
I mean, the poor guy. I'm sure like nobody does this, right? Nobody is just like involved in criminal proceedings, you know? So like he probably had no idea at this point, you know, when to, you know,
there's crazy people like
I think I need a lawyer because you jerks are you know, treating me like a suspect here.
No, I mean, there's crazy people like me who I think about this every day.
Of course.
I'm like, if I'm ever in questioning and they hand me water, I'm not drinking it. If I blow my nose, I'm putting it in my pocket. I'm like, I've got it down. Like I'm not using their pens or pencils. I'm not, you know, nobody's getting my DNA. Nobody's getting nothing. They can kiss my ass. I've seen Dateline. I'm leaving. Clearly we're not all built psychotic like that. that. And Aaron was not. So he stayed there for 18 hours, which at that point is just psychotic. And they came in and told him that he failed the polygraph miserably.
Oh my gosh. I saw that and I was like, how?
And I'm screaming, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Get out of that police department. You don't have to stay there. It is.
And he's just sobbing. The poor guy is just sobbing in that room. And they're treating him like he's just some serial killer.
Right. Which I get that's why their brains went there. Yep. But you have to do some kind of investigation to get to that point. And it's not how things typically work. Don't ever stay at a police department 18 hours. They should have never given him a lie detector test on
Don't say 18
NyQuil.
Minutes if you don't think this is a thing.
If you wake up in a criminal situation and you have no idea what has happened, do not start talking. That's like the worst thing that you can do. So basically, he goes home. They let him go because they can't criminally charge him yet because they don't have any evidence of anything. He goes home. Oh, here's the other thing is that, he gives the police his phone and he's like, look, this is how the bad guys are communicating. This is how they're asking for ransom. So here's my phone for you guys to communicate with them.
Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Bro.
They put it in airplane mode.
Bro.
The police put it in airplane mode and they missed two phone calls that would have been traceable within 200 meters of Denise's location.
Oh my God.
She could have been found that morning. But one of the police officers, for some reason, put it in airplane mode. They don't really go into why. So the next day or two, Aaron is at his house. He's with his family. The news is starting to cover this. This woman is missing, all of these things. And then all of a sudden, in this documentary, when you are sure that this guy is guilty as hell or that this is set up or something happens.
She did. You thinking she's gone. She's dead.
Yes. Officer Mustard, who is kind of like the bad cop in this, Officer Mustard was telling him, he's like, I know her body is rotting somewhere. Can't you picture it? Can't you picture her body rotting? Don't you want me to tell her family now instead of later?
Yep.
And doing the tactic of like, I get it, man. An accident probably happened. You guys were doing drugs. She overdosed. You panicked. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He done decided that boyfriend was guilty. And, it was just.
It was confirmation bias.
Yep.
Confirmation bias beginning to end. So I guess a little less than 48 hours later, Denise is dropped off on her childhood street, 400 miles away. Because it kind of takes place all over California. It's not in one specific area. It's like where they live, where the bad guy is, where her family lives. It's all spread out. California is very, very big. We see this surveillance video of this woman walking down the street holding, very casual, slow, has a bag, has a backpack. She's wearing sunglasses, and it's Denise. Yeah. And she goes to her parents' home, rings the doorbell. Nobody's home because they are 400 miles where Aaron is with him trying to find her. And so basically a neighbor had come out and seen her and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry about your sister. And she's like, no, it's me. I'm the one who was kidnapped. And the lady's like, oh shit, get in here. Yeah.
Yep.
So they bring Denise into the police station right away. They start questioning her right away. And then that police department contacts Mr. Mustard's police department in Vallejo and says, we got her. She's here.
Yep.
And she's telling us her story and all of these things. And she immediately says, well, they say to her, the cops say to her, we're willing to offer you immunity if you tell us the truth. And she's like, immunity from what?
From what? Yeah. She's like, excuse me.
I just got kidnapped and dropped. What do I need immunity for? It had never crossed her mind that she wasn't going to be believed.
Right.
And so she, smart girl, says, I want a lawyer. I want a lawyer right now. So the lawyer comes, the public defender, whoever they send, and the FBI wants to fly her on their plane back to the Vallejo, California, and interview her there. And her lawyer says, you are not flying on the FBI's plane. That'll be a 3-hour interrogation. I'm going to book you a commercial flight so that you can get there on your own and whatever. So can you imagine after all of this trauma, you're in all of the news and they're like, here, get on this Delta flight by yourself. But it makes sense that he didn't want her on the FBI's plane.
No, absolutely. They would have.
Right.
That would have been a nightmare.
So she flies back to Vallejo. She gets there, gets interviewed, all of that stuff. And then like a bomb, the Vallejo Police Department announced that they are going to have a what is it? Press conference on what's going on. And Aaron hears this and he's like, press conference. He's like, I don't even know what's happened yet. He knew Denise had been found, but they had not been reunited.
Yep.
He didn't know where she was. They
didn't tell the family anything. They didn't tell him anything.
Nothing.
Out of nowhere.
Nothing. And then within 12 hours of Denise being found, this is the part that just pisses me off to no end.
I cannot even.
Within 12 hours of her being found, the Vallejo Police Department gets on the news and says, this is a hoax. We are no longer referring to Aaron and Denise as victims. None of their story panned out, and we are not investigating anything now. 12 hours after she was found, you can't investigate anything in 12 hours. Like, why wouldn't they have looked at other surveillance video from the neighborhood? Like, who dropped her off? And they found Aaron's car. Because remember, he put her in Aaron's truck.
First, yeah.
They found his car not too far away. And they didn't go look at any surveillance video there. Of like, when did this car get here? Did anybody see him? Nothing. And God bless her. If Denise didn't do enough by pay attention to where she turned and things like that, she told them the engine sounded like a Mustang. It sounded like I was in a Mustang. And she said, I could see a little bit out of the rim of my goggles when I got out. It looked like it was white. She's like, I'm not sure. I could only really see light and dark, but I really think I was in a white Mustang. So she had given these police and FBI agents so much information.
Yeah.
And they did nothing.
Nope. They had decided that this was all a hoax and that she was lying.
Yes.
And they were both lying. And
then went on the news and told the world that they were lying. Like that's the thing
bad. I mean, bad.
Oh,
not just like, we think this is a hoax. We're going to find out. I mean, they ripped them apart.
Yes.
In this press conference.
And again, this girl has not even been saved for 24 hours. And she is like, she has gone from being, heartbroken from her ex-boyfriend or from her boyfriend wanting to get back with his ex-girlfriend to then being kidnapped. And now she's on the news saying that this is all a hoax. And so basically at this point, trauma. Aaron and Denise go into hiding, right? Because they can't leave their house. They're getting bullied on the internet. They're getting bullied. I think they either lost or had to resign from their jobs. Like basically their entire.
Could you go to work after that?
Their entire life crumbles apart. What we find out is that while Denise was in custody with this guy, she was raped twice. She was allowed to take off her goggles at one point to take a shower. Again, he had all these toiletries laid out for her. Very, very bizarre.
Oh, yeah, he was very prepared to have.
Very prepared and
at this.
Very much kept saying how bad he felt about this. He's like, I don't want to rape you, but we have to have sex. We have to make it look consensual so that I have collateral on you to never go to the police.
Right.
After she has sex with him once, he says, we got to do it again because it didn't look believable. I'm going to take your goggles off. I have to tape your eyelids shut. So she had to have sex with him with her eyelids taped shut and had to make it believable. She had to kiss him. This girl went through all of it. So basically they're in hiding. And the news is just taken off with it, right?
Right.
They are like the joke of the state of California. And, they wasted all these resources and things. And then all of a sudden, the Vallejo Police Department get this 15-page manifesto. It actually gets sent to a reporter, but he brings it straight to the police. It is a 15-page manifesto from the bad guy saying, you should believe her. Because I did.
How embarrassing. How are you not embarrassed?
He says, I did all of these things. And yes, I drive a white Mustang. And he listed all the things that he did. And the Vallejo Police Department do nothing. Again.
How are you not embarrassed?
Again, they do nothing. And for people who are like, why would he do that? Why would he send that in? That's actually pretty typical of criminals. If you've studied any serial killers, they start getting pissed that they didn't get credit for their work.
Yeah, exactly.
That they didn't get caught. And it's very typical for criminals to do that. So...
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that, they get this whole thing and they're like, meh.
Yeah.
We still think they made it up.
And in this 15-page manifesto, he's like, Denise is the strongest woman I've ever met and she deserves to be believed and all of these things. And meanwhile, Denise is like, the fuck? Can somebody figure out what's going on here?
I mean... Tale as old as time, let me say, about women not being believed. But, that's in a whole nother show.
Well, so a few months go by and basically Aaron and Denise's lives are ruined, right? They're just ruined.
They are.
And it was June that all of a sudden in a different area of California, there's another break-in and attempted kidnapping. Now, this is a home where a mom and a dad and their daughter in her 20s, again, a young, pretty girl in her 20s lived.
Yep.
That's the other thing is that this bad guy has such balls breaking into these homes and kidnapping women where other people are. It's just like...
They're just there.
Doesn't make any
by
sense.
Himself.
Yeah, so this happens in June. This is in, I think, Dublin, California. It's like 100 miles away from where Denise was kidnapped. However, the dad fights back.
Mm-hmm.
The dad is not...
he's on it.
Yeah, the dad is not flight, freeze, or fauna. The dad is all fight.
He's all fight.
And he's swinging.
Good on you.
He
Good
is
on
swinging.
You, Dad. I love it.
So he's fighting the bad guy. The mom is on the phone with 911 saying, someone's trying to kidnap our daughter. My husband is fighting him. You can hear all this rustling in the background. And then the bad guy runs away, jumps their fence and leaves. And police show up and they're all sitting there and everybody's a mess. And they look over and there's a cell phone on the counter. And the people who live there are like, that's not our phone. And the cops are like, it's not any of our phones.
Bad guy left his cell phone.
Of all things to leave.
Can you?
You are a Harvard graduate and you leave behind your cell phone, you asshole.
Why would you even put that down?
Why? Why would you even bring it? That's the one thing that could trace you. Like, listen, criminals, leave your damn cell phones at home. It's not that hard.
Leave it in the car.
Yes. So anyway, so they get his cell phone. And he's on his mom's plan, of course. So they call the owner of the phone, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's my son's phone. He just lost it yesterday.
Oh, how about that?
He's at my cabin in Lake Tahoe." Because we're going to bring it back to him. What's the address? And she gives him the address.
I just want to get it back to him. No problem.
And this is when it cuts to the footage of the bad guy, Matt Mueller, being arrested. And they, sure enough, they find him in this rundown house, just shit falling apart everywhere. Mm. It's really close to a no-knock warrant, which gives me like a crime junkie boner, which is when a no-knock warrant is when you just come swooping in, almost like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh,
whenever the boss is tied up.
Yes. Just like...
So that is a no-knock warrant, which they almost never do. They're super dangerous and controversial. But anyway, the police entry to this property was just amazing. And so they're able to arrest him. They take him down to the station for this kidnapping of this other girl. Again, nothing right now is connected to Denise. Detectives are on the scene going through the house that he was in. And there was one detective named Misty Caruso.
Bless her.
It was her first job as a detective. She had been a police officer for a long time. She just got promoted. First job as detective. They're bagging up evidence and putting things in the bags. And she pulls out these pair of goggles and she sees a long blonde hair like stuck in the earpiece. And she's like, the girl the victim in this case has brown hair.
Yeah.
The mom has brown hair. Where did this blonde hair come from? This blonde hair has to belong to one of his other victims.
Yeah. He's done this before.
He's done this before.
We got to find out what happened here.
But he's not talking. He's not talking. He knows. He's being held. And again, these crimes happened all over California. So this detective, this Misty Caruso in Dublin, who finds this blonde hair, she almost doesn't know where to start. Because this guy, she looks up his record and he does have a couple of like peeping Tom charges,
right? Some
things like that. And so she knows that there's other victims, but there's no other cases of him being arrested or anything like that. So she holds on to this hair for, I think it's like weeks, and she's going over all of these other cases. And somebody says, well, have you ever thought about the Mare Island peeper? Is that what they called him? Something like that.
Something like that.
So she pulls up the video. They call it the Gone Girl case because the Ben Affleck movie had just come out the year before. And the police, asshole Mustard, actually says to the family when they're like, why aren't you investigating this? He's like, you should go watch Gone Girl. The way I would have just hit him square in the face.
Yeah, sorry, I'm surprised none of them actually pile drive.
I would just punch him in the face and be like, there's my assault charge. Show me which cell to go in. It was worth it.
Uh-huh.
So basically she finds Denise and says, I have these goggles. I have this hair. I think it was yours. They go and then seize his computer and all of these things. And what do you know? They find out that every single thing Denise had been saying was true. Denise,
ding, 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 ding.
Denise was able to describe to a T what the room looked like that she was caught in. She was able to, they found his white Mustang in the driveway.
How about that? A white Mustang.
Go figure.
Holy.
They found the videos of her being raped. They found everything. She had lied about nothing. Aaron had lied about nothing. And as bizarre and insane as this case had seemed, they were telling the truth the whole entire time.
Wow.
The whole entire time.
How about that?
And the police work in this case, well, there was none. First of all, there was none. Matt Mueller ended up pleading guilty in 2016, which was a year after this happened, and he's in federal prison now for the rest of his life. And Aaron and Denise are married. They're married. They have 2 kids. They are, from all accounts, trying to move on with their lives.
They settled out of court, I think.
They settled out of court for $2.5 million, which is not nearly enough. But, you know, when you've been through hell, like it's not even about the amount of money.
No. It's about just trying to get your life back, some semblance of normalcy, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
So basically, this documentary left a lot of questions, and we know that you guys have them. So we are watching the YouTube feed. We're here to answer your questions. Basically, again, I already knew this case very well when the Netflix documentary came out. So I almost wish I didn't know. I wish I had that experience of not knowing the ending and watching it, you know,
for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
So one of the number one questions that people have is, why was this ex-girlfriend the target? Why was Andrea, the other blonde, they just gloss over the fact that she was the target in this, but then they don't follow it up and say why. The reason that it was the target was scheming to is ideally, or what there is that he had seen Aaron and Andrea together somewhere and said, that's my next victim. So he starts stalking them. He starts watching him. He starts, you know, gaining intel on them, where they live, where they work, planning this big crime. And at some point in that, they break up and she moves out, and, you know, bad guy doesn't notice, or maybe sees, you know, Denise and thought it was the same person. So it wasn't so much as Andrea was specifically targeted as she was his next random victim.
Yeah, she just happened to be the one.
There's so many cases in this where it's like kind of like a crime of like opportunity, of like, I just happened to see them at the right time in the right place.
Right.
So it wasn't that Andrea had specifically done anything wrong to become a victim. That's just who he thought he had.
Yeah.
Simply, he just thought, and then he was confused when it was somebody else. That's it. So there's no big crazy story behind that. Steph, what other questions?
Well, it says, how was he so calm at the police station?
I think we kind of went over that, which is just
that he was drugged.
Yeah.
And, you know, and just trying to, and I think also, and something maybe we didn't cover, I think at that point, maybe he was still trusting the police.
Of course he was.
I think in the Netflix thing, they kind of talked about this, that he trusted the police, and that he was saying, like, I wanted to call the police. I wanted to, have the police handle this, because that was who, I thought could help me.
Well, and I think that's when he sort of let his guard down and was like, oh, thank God, I can like take a breath now, because the police are going to take this over and I don't have to carry this anymore.
Yeah.
One other thing about Andrea is that it's brought up in the documentary, is that she had an affair with one of the FBI agents that was on this case.
I think somebody has mentioned that the FBI agent was not his brother, was her boyfriend, or was her.
No. Totally different FBI agents. Totally different ones.
Okay.
So 2 of the people that Andrea had cheated on Aaron with were a police officer in the area and an FBI detective in the area.
So she got a type.
She does have a type. And they went, once it was uncovered that this guy used to date her, and they didn't say how long they dated, if it was a long relationship or not. But they did date. And then the city of Vallejo, or the police department, said that they investigated it and said that guy didn't do any wrong conduct, blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows. While it's, it's fun to think really sinisterly that like, oh, the cop set it up and he wanted that Andrea girl taken away and all this stuff. The truth is that this bad guy had done this over and over and over again to other people. It's so like, it's, to me, I think it again might be a little bit of a coincidence that she happened to be dating or doing or whatever a couple, an FBI agent, and he was not integral, I don't think, in the case. We only see him like once or twice.
Okay,
so I don't think that's as shady as people are making it out to be. Could be,
right?
Could be, but we won't know because it wasn't investigated.
Do you think? And this is just a question that I have. Mm-hmm. Do you think that he actually was acting alone?
So that's the other thing, is that, the video, the Netflix series starts with Denise and Aaron saying that they truly believe that there were several people in the house at the time. They said that he spoke in plural terms. He would say, "We're going to do this. We're going to do that."
But could that have been a deception?
Yes. So
that's the thing. Like,
so in the end, Matt, the bad guy, Mueller, comes out and says, "No, I faked all that. Like, it was just me."
Okay, but still, like with the okay, we have to, I'm going to rape you, but I have to send it to whatever. Do you think that was real? That he was actually like, sending that to somebody to try to get?
No,
I do you think that was?
I think that this was all him. However, Aaron and Denise both maintain to this day that there are more people out there that were not captured, because they said we could hear him talking to us and somebody rummaging in the kitchen. Like, we could hear more than one person. And at one point, before she was blindfolded, Denise thought she saw 2 sets of legs.
Oh.
And so while she can't say with 100% certainty,
sure,
Aaron and Denise stand by the fact that there were more people that never got caught. And the police are saying, nope, we got the one guy. He was just, screwing with you guys.
That's interesting.
And because the bad guy, Matt Mueller, pled guilty.
Yeah.
There was no investigation.
Man, I mean, that's the thing. Like, why would he take the fall and not like at least give somebody up?
Yeah. And then the other thing is that all the other crimes that he did, he was by himself. When he was caught with the cell phone with the other family, I mean, the family said there was only one person. So it's definitely possible that Aaron and Denise were very confused and that it was only one person the whole time, but he made it seem like it was other people. Or it's one or the other, but there's no definitive answer. Because again, he pled guilty. So there was no trial. There was no investigation. Right. There was nothing.
It was very easy. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, people talking about how Detective Mustard should have been fired, but instead he was given an award.
He was. Yeah.
How about that?
So yeah.
Interesting turn of events there.
In 2015, the same year that this all happened, Officer Mustard was given Officer of the Year. Ugh. And in 2019, he was promoted to
hurts my heart.
Sergeant.
Oh.
And as
not Colonel?
No. Colonel Mustard, that would have been amazing. As of March 2023, he was still working as a sergeant with the Vallejo Police Department. And when people say people say, how does that happen?
It makes you wonder if there's going to be like more public outrage now that this came out. Is there like more? Is there like a petition started to get him fired? Like, has he gone into hiding now?
Their Facebook, like all of the Vallejo, PD's like social media is just being like inundated with people like screaming at them. And it's like, finally, like somebody is talking about this. And I just think that a lot of people are so naive out there to think that bad people don't get punished for their bad things. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's corruption everywhere, from police departments to schools your kid go to the baseball, to like, there's corruption and there's bad people everywhere. And it's just hard for us to think that happens and that people don't get punished and that they have, associates in their bad guy stuff, in their shitty police work. But it happens. It happens all the time.
Yep.
So no, this is just an absolute case of like a really shitty cop getting away with shitty cop work. And hopefully now he'll be held accountable for it.
Man, I mean, almost 10 years later.
At least in the public eye, he's going to be held accountable, which is just about as bad as places you can get
I know. I mean, if nothing else, like maybe he'll feel bad enough to quit.
Please, God. But, they're just going to give him like a pension and like retirement. And,
I mean, he'll quit, with all kinds of money.
And again, this is not a police bashing. No, this is a Vallejo Officer Mustard bashing, because
deserves it.
I am fascinated when I talk about true crime, documentaries and junkie. I am fascinated by both good cop work and bad cop work, because we see it on both ends.
If this had gone the opposite way, we would be absolutely praising them.
Yes. And the majority of police officers are wonderful people. The majority of teachers are wonderful people. The majority of Catholic priests are wonderful people. But any scoop of people you're going to take, you're going to have bad apples. Like, you're either a piece of shit or you're not. Those are like the only two categories you can put in life. You're a piece of shit or you're not.
Right.
That's it. Whether you're a cop or a teacher or a priest or anything else, I think that like 20% of people, close to 20%, are pieces of shit and 80% are not.
Right.
And in this case, Officer Mustard is a piece of shit. And that's just kind of how it works. How can a serial sexual deviant have a moral compass? Unless you're born that way, we can't understand that, because what we have to remember, and this is not me defending bad people, this is not me defending murderers or child predators, but nobody wakes up one day and wants to be attracted to children.
Right.
Okay. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to go and molest children. Okay, that never happens. Nobody makes that choice. Like you definitely, either it's your nurture, your nature, your environment, something that makes you think those things. And there's people that get help for those thoughts, and then there's people who act on them. And so this guy clearly had thoughts of kidnapping people, and but he knew it was wrong.
Right.
Which, so it's not so much of a moral compass as it is like, the good guy and the bad guy on your shoulder, and different ones are winning at different times.
It kind of made me wonder that, like, if he was doing part of that to almost, make himself feel better about what he was doing.
Exactly. Because he sounded very like narcissistic and
like he was showing her video of her dad talking to her.
This could not be more like a movie. So while she's kidnapped and been raped and been gone for 24 hours, the bad guy says, "Hey, I want to show you something," and pulls out his phone and shows her dad on the news saying, "We love you so much. We're looking for you. We're,
Yes. Like, what kind of awful, completely terrible person, does that? Like, it's almost like I said, he's trying to kind of like show her that, like, look, I'm not
not the monster. He's like, I'm the good guy in the group of bad guys, is what he tried to play it as.
Yeah. I don't want to be doing this, but something inside me is making me do this.
Which actually is going to lead me to like one of our last questions. And that's a question that I saw asked over and over and over and over again is, why the hell was she walking down the street with a duffel bag and a backpack and sunglasses when she got dropped off?
Yeah,
they're like, where'd she get all her stuff from?
She had a little overnighter.
The bad guy got it for her.
Oh yeah.
So again, she did not live with Aaron. So when she came there that night for them to talk about their relationship, she brought an overnight bag. She brought her work bag because the next morning was a Monday. And she brought like a toiletry bag that had like her glasses in it and all of these different things. And the freaking bad guy said, like, "Do you want me to take these bags for you?" And she's like, "Yeah." So he packed took her bags, put them in the car. And then when he dropped her off on the random side of the street, she had her eyes taped shut again. So he had her eyes taped shut again, put sunglasses on her, got her out of the car. Again, there has to be surveillance video somewhere of this.
There has to be.
I mean, there was a neighbor walking right behind her in the footage. Like,
unless there was like some dead spot, because the video footage looked like maybe like a Ring doorbell or something.
Right.
So maybe there was like a dead zone or somebody.
So basically, he told her, "I'm going to drop you off here with your eyeballs taped shut and sunglasses on so you look normal. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drive away after you hear the engine go away, count to 10, and then take your stuff off." And then that's what she did.
Yeah.
So that's the big mystery of, why was she carrying bags? I saw so many people with that question.
Yeah.
And the simple answer is that the bad guy was a psychopath who also had a moral compass and was like, "Hey, would you like your glasses bag?" And like she said, whenever she went in, he let her take a shower. And when she went in, he had all of her toiletries lined out on the bathroom for her because he let her take off her goggles when she like was in the bathroom on her own. So, and then I would say probably the last question that we have, or the last thing that we're going to touch on here is, was there a public apology? No, there was not.
Of course not.
There was not.
Of course not.
Of course not. Of course not. Which here's the thing.
It was a check, but no apology.
Yeah, the check came from the city. It came from the city of Vallejo. I don't know if it came from the police department or not.
No, they're run by the city.
But they're run by the city. You run a slippery slope when you want to punish someone like a police officer for doing a bad job, because then even brain surgeons have bad days on the job. Like, nobody is perfect. Nobody's going to run, and
they're human.
Yes.
It happens. But
nobody is good at their job every single day.
Exactly.
However, this man literally did not do his job.
Right.
He did nothing.
Right.
He did nothing. He did less than nothing. He didn't even do an investigation. His literal job is to be an investigator, and he didn't investigate jack shit.
How did nobody call him out on this, while this was happening too?
Because he's likely surrounded with people like him. I have noticed over the years of my adulthood, or whatever you want to call it, is that bad guys protect bad guys.
I know.
And, these people who have these really...
for something here, some kind of...
it's like they can find each other. It's like they know, because nobody would dare act like that or behave like that in front of a morally sound person like us. But it's like these people with no conscience, they can find each other. It's almost like they can read each other's minds. Like, "You bad guy? Yeah, I'm a bad guy." Sweet. Let's do this together. So yeah, that is pretty much it. And this story has just taken the world by storm. Again, it happened in 2015. It's called American Nightmare on Netflix, which is the stupidest name ever.
It is. But I hope that having this come out in such a public forum like Netflix helps Aaron and Denise get some kind of closure, some kind of
for sure
backing for them, like, because I feel like the whole country now is like cheering for them, and is in their corner now and believing. I mean, obviously, believing them because all of this is out, but still, like,
it's one thing to have your own family know that you're innocent, but to finally have it put on a national television screen after everything they've been through is amazing. Because
I know you said there was a book and there was, all these things, but still, like, something so public like Netflix that puts it out to, like, the average person, that maybe didn't
know the case, or
I mean, and not your everyday crime junkie, right? Like, just an average person, like someone like me that doesn't, follow this stuff normally, but still likes to watch these limited series things.
So their book is called Victim F, and you can get it on Amazon, Audible. Are Kindles still a thing?
Well, I mean, that's Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. I don't read, so I don't.
I think Kindles are still a thing, but you get Amazon books. For Kindles. But.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it's out there if you want to read it. And again, if you want to watch it, it's called American Nightmare. 3 episodes, really easy to digest. Nobody dies. So even if you're like, oh, I don't like crime shows because they're so sad.
Nothing's gory in it.
No. This is one that you can handle. And that's all. And hopefully this is taken and maybe more women are believed when sometimes things are.
Oh my gosh. Someday.
Because if this can happen to a guy whose literal brother is an FBI agent, then like nobody is safe. Like, you have to be an advocate for yourself. You have to be an advocate for your own safety and for your own innocence.
And she was, I mean, hand to God, I mean, how many rooftops do women have to stand on to be believed?
Right.
I mean, it's just...
And the other things that the cops overlooked were that her and Aaron's stories matched identically when they were interviewed separately, because they didn't get to see each other for like a day. Like when they had the press conference saying all of this has been a hoax, they hadn't even seen each other yet. I mean, can you just imagine?
No,
like,
I mean, the whole thing is just bonkers.
You had to have felt like you were living in a movie.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Like, this is not happening. So, that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching and taking an interest in this. We will be back next week, probably on Tuesday. I don't know. We just make it up. If you follow me on social media.
Hopefully Tuesday. I think the weather's going to be okay.
Oh, God, I hope. But if you follow me, it's at Kelly Manno on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm always popping up there when we're going to have a new show. And again, typically we're not talking about crime documentaries, but this one is just taking over the world the way Tiger King did. And I just thought it was appropriate to sit and do it. So thank you, Stephanie.
I loved it. Thank you.
I was so happy when you said you watched. I'm like, yes, we're doing a show on it. So
it's like, can you guys watch the show? I'm like, already done. So let's do it.
Hopefully that answered a lot of you guys' questions. And we will see you next week on the Kelly Manno Show with a much lighter, easier topic. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful weekend. And we love you guys, and bye.